It's a beautiful day for another weekly Q&A analysis. No, Q&A session, of course. If you're not familiar with what this is, it is a similar setup to the weekly live streams, except, of course, it is pre-recorded instead of being live. We're going to be fielding questions from the Discord community and also the YouTube community as well. You can, by the way, participate in this for 100% free. All you need to do is just join the Discord link in the description below. That's the cost to enter, and then you just find your way over here into the K video content section, find the most recent Q&A, and post whatever the hell you want. I can't promise I have the answer for whatever you want or even the right answer for whatever you want, but I'll try my best. That's for sure. We'll start this one off with a very, very quick Bitcoin analysis here as well. And I do want to acknowledge the short-term consolidation, which the price action pivot is actually showing the current low of this one at just below 103. So if the 6-hour time frame does start to really close below 103, I would say that it does open up the door for, a short-term correction. Now, when I say short-term correction, these can always be massively misheard. I'm not calling a major macro reversal. I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to zero or anything like this. No, but I am saying that Bitcoin is more likely to pull back than it is not. Now, we see several supporting evidence for this as well. We can see 6-hour time frame stochastic momentum has been very, very, very long within the critical zone here. Now officially coming back down on this next closure, assuming that it remains below 104 and 200. The 12-hour time frame is also going to be crossing down simultaneously on the next closure below 104. The daily time frame is also going to be crossing down a little bit lower though, 102 and a half or so, but you can see that the daily stochastic also has been in here for a very, very long time. And so, expecting a bit of a cool off after a pretty impressive run, is that like that fucking crazy to expect? I would say probably more likely than not. The 2-day time frame, same thing here as well, about to freshly turn down below 103,800. 3-day time frame, also about to turn down below 102,650, and the 5-day time frame, which just closed last night, is now nice and deep inside that critical zone. But the reason why I say that while these medium and higher term time frames start to align for very likely a pullback, I do think that it ends up being an opportunity, meaning that whatever pullback occurs, it's probably going to bounce and probably going to march its way up well back above $100,000 again, I would imagine. That is because all of the higher term time frames are still healthily angled to the upside. So we see the weekly right here, pivot is 77,000. Bi-weekly time frame is freshly crossing up, I do believe, at the end of today's closure, assuming that Bitcoin remains above $100,000, which it probably does. The monthly is also going to actually cross to the upside at the end of this month. It's very, very early to judge this, to be fair, but right now $100,000 is the pivot. The bi-monthly time frame continues up as well, above 90,000. The quarterly also continues up above 93. So that does align well for at least another try higher, perhaps after a pullback. And also on the topic of a potential pullback here, if Bitcoin does confirm a local high, which it is not just yet, but if you do see a closure below yesterday's low, it will, and that's 102,800 or so. We will see bearish divergence on the daily MACD also confirmed simultaneously. So, I do like that for increasing the odds of a decent pullback. How deep can things go? Well, we'll find out how deep inside, perhaps from the HPDR over here. The HPDR, let's go down to perhaps a daily or maybe even a 5-day right now. We did just get another 5-day closure, or maybe even a weekly. I'm not seeing anything that's super obvious as far as a pullback target could potentially come. I would suppose like just below $100,000 is fair game. Let's call it 98 to 99. But first things first, needs to confirm a local high here. Then let's say that is very likely actionable. Anyways, I know how much people really hate when you talk about anything that implies even the smallest amount of downside. But yeah, in this case, I do think that is more likely in this case. Again, if you start to see closures below yesterday's low, that would do it for me. Anyways, moving on from there, let's get into the YouTube comments first. And I just noticed a question over here. Shan on Twitter says, do you agree with the new price action pivot level? Yeah, more or less. I mean, yesterday's low is fine. Start to close back down below there. This looks like a local high. You start to see all higher term time frame momentum also just turn down simultaneously. Yeah, I would say that one works. But again, it needs to be confirmed first. I think this is another point that I get misheard on like very often, maybe intentionally sometimes, but yeah. Anyways, moving on from there, let's go over to the YouTube comments. As always, YouTube members get priority for these, and I've already posted up, by the way, the new one as well. But we will go down the list with Mr. Arms Private first, and he says, please take a look at Bitcoin dominance. When will we finally see? I mean, we're seeing a pullback right now, right? So this one's come down what percentage wise from the highs. 4.33%, which is probably the biggest downside move we've seen on this thing in a while. Yeah, basically since November of last year. Is this a high right here? Look, I think it's very difficult to do technical analysis on Bitcoin dominance because I just don't think it works. Trend seems to work, but if I'm going off of this, yeah, this would be a good place for at least a swing high, which would imply that at least it comes back down and at least makes a higher low, if not actually has a real reversal. But as of right now, it is a bearish engulfing dildo. So I would say that if you're going off a traditional TA, which again I don't trust too much on something like this, that would be good enough to call at least a daily reversal. But I need to repeat the same line that I've been repeating for what feels like the past year almost now, which is, look, I think if you're waiting for Bitcoin dominance to top, you probably missed the best options already, because the best options have already rallied to the moon and beyond. Now, with Bitcoin dominance topping, I actually look at that as, and I know I'm going to get some shit for this, like a genuinely bad signal, because when does that typically happen? During the last leg of the market. So alt are going to get their bounces. We have been looking for bounces on alts. All of the majors, when we do the big five, have been looking for major bounces, and we're starting to hit some of the initial targets for those already right now. I do think that things can still run more, but I look at this as, to me, it's more of a cautious signal. I was just explaining over on Twitter as well, sort of my disposition, which I think, if you understand my disposition, you're going to understand why I say the things that I say a lot better. And it's simply this. Look, we've been watching these markets for a long time now, 7-8 years on this channel. And specifically for this cycle, we were one of the earlier channels being bullish coming into the beginning of 2023 and late 2022. And that was the right time to be becoming bullish. And we've been bullish more or less the whole way through. And this is now, in my opinion, quite deep into this market cycle. So for me, I want to be more defensive. I want to be protecting all of the shit that we made, or all of the shit that I made down here, and not risking a shit ton over here. I want to be on the defensive. I want to be looking for reasons to not be taking extra positions and, things like this. So, it may be that we just have a different look on things. Anyways, looks like Mr. Bot is doing his thing. Good bot indeed. Anyways, we shall now go to Cousin Burley. She says, "Hey Crown, MicroStrategy on the 5-day. Let's check this one out. MicroStrategy. I would actually like to get a position in this thing at some point. But I need to be patient on this one. Anyways, MicroStrategy, very interestingly enough, in my opinion, it's been stronger than Bitcoin, and it seems to continue to be stronger than Bitcoin as well, despite a lot of people's thoughts on this one. Now, I don't own any myself, but like I said, I would like to get into a position, more long term. But just like Bitcoin versus the dollar, you're back around like a major area of interest here, basically around where this thing kind of sold off from in late December of last year, coming off of that first all-time high, or I guess its current all-time high. Now, if I go into my momentum oscillators, it's in some pretty critical zones, but I don't look at that as like super concerning. Overall, this is bullish, and overall, this thing very likely makes new highs. The question is, does it have a pullback first to like 350 and then make new highs, or does it just make new highs from here? That's a real question. I don't know. I have no fucking idea on this one. But if I had to say, well, honestly, I don't know what I would say, because I do, either which way that I think that this thing makes new highs. Like even if Bitcoin doesn't make new highs, this thing looks like it wants to make new highs regardless of that. It's just, do you have a pullback to 350 first? Let's see. Can I come up with an objective method of saying that becomes extremely likely? Maybe if you see a closure below, on a daily time frame below about 390. That becomes, a lot more reasonable. Like I said, 350 to 325, something like that. But just like Bitcoin, I'd probably be looking for a higher low there and then another try to the upside. Overall, MicroStrategy, very, very strong chart here. I mean, it's no secret that this one's been, one of the best actors in the whole fucking stock market for a while. But yeah, if you're specifically asking about the 5-day time frame, if you're going to have a pullback, this would be the area to do it from. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't have a strong opinion on whether it's going to pull back or not. My strong opinion is on the long-term upside. And if it does pull back, I'd know exactly where I'm looking at. Again, somewhere between 325 to 350. Come back to it after that if it happens. Yeah. All right. Let's see. We got John next. He says, yo, what's up, man? Hello, sir. Hope you and Elsa doing great. Yeah, it's actually been a pretty good day. Can you please give the stock Palantir a look on the daily weekly? Sure, man. It's like becoming my favorite stock just because of the name. Only because of the name. Anyways. And you said what time frames again? It was the daily and the derpy. Okay. Let's go to the daily first. This one, okay, I'll give you what I want to happen. I want this one to come back down to like $100 or maybe even like 85. That's really where I'd like to add to positions on this, but that's perhaps selfish in this endeavor. I'm not fully convinced that that's actually going to happen from here, but hey, just like the last chart that we looked at with MicroStrategy, if there is going to be a pullback, this is the place to do it from. You got your traditional double derp right there, your highs back in February of this year versus the highs right here. It did actually pull back quite a fair bit all the way to 105. Maybe I'm being a little bit greedy, wanting it to go a little bit below there, but that's just me. Either which way, higher term timeframes though still remain bullish. I mean, this is among some of the better, among some of the best charts, I should say, in traditional markets. I'm just kind of going across the different higher term timeframes. But again, the question is, does it look like this where it just goes straight up? Does it come down for correction first, like I truly hope it does, so I can just pick up more and then do one of these? That's the real question. And as of right now, I would say let's go down to a daily and let's figure out what the most recent price action pivot is, and that is 105. So as long as you're above 105, yeah, it's in a position to actually carry on to new all-time highs. Personally, I think I think it will correct more. At least I hope it corrects more. But that's not going to be actionable until you, at minimum, come back down below and preferably close below this price action pivot here at about 105. And by the way, for the people asking where do you get price action pivots, you can actually try it for free for 7 days. You can try pretty much all of our stuff for free for 7 days. It's just in the link in the description below for Teachable, and you can get it as soon as you claim it, basically. Anyways, what's up, Mr. Steve? Dude, yeah, fucking finally got it, man. On Twitter. We are live on Twitter, by the way. I like to be live on Twitter when we do these pre-recorded videos. It's more like a chill hangout session rather than, a fucking high-paced shitcoin request machine, which is rather nice. Anyways, we'll get to Tom Struck next. He says, bless you, sirs. I would appreciate seeing weekly and monthly MACD on gold. Okay, let's go to our MACD. Oops, where's our other MACD chart? Yes, this would be it. All right, you said gold. I'm going to look at spot gold here. Let's go to this one, and let me go back to your question just to make sure I got it right. Weekly and monthly MACD on gold, and if possible, your musings on why it's not so good on lower timeframes for Bitcoin, though I thought I heard you mention that sometimes. Why it's not so good on lower timeframes for Bitcoin? I don't know. Oh, you mean MACD on lower timeframes? No, I wouldn't say that. MACD works on any time frame, but of course, I think maybe where I'm being misheard here is that the MACD in general is not good for short-term moves. It's a momentum oscillator like the RSI and like the stochastic, but if I had to make a like-color relationship between which one is better for short-term moves, which one's better for long-term moves, it would be shortest would be stochastic, very obviously. The mid would be RSI, and then the MACD would be, of course, those more longer-term moves. It speaks towards more longer-term momentum compared to the other two. Anyways, starting off with the monthly here. I really, really, really want to call a top on gold. Like I really, really, really want to call a top on gold. And I think I should. No, I mean, as of right now, it is consolidating. So we haven't seen it switch into a downtrend just yet. It did see its first major selling come in a bit, but ultimately we don't have, we don't have that just yet. Wait, where's my damn price action pivot? Hold on. Let me bring it up over here. Price. There we go. Beautiful. I want to see where the most recent, yeah, it's exactly where you'd expect. So price action pivot right now is at 3240-ish region. As long as you're above there, you can look at this as just a consolidation. Maybe there's continuation, maybe it hasn't topped just yet. But the second that you start to come back down below here and close below here, 3240, that's where I'd say I feel quite confident that this thing has seen a high for a while. Not for forever, not anything like that, but for a while. And, next target would be like 3150, probably tries to bounce there. I think ultimately things would find their way well below 3,000, somewhere around like 28 to 2,900. And that could be a potential major, maybe even macro low. But, this thing has been on a fucking tear almost every goddamn week, making new all-time highs since December? So, expecting a consolidation here sideways and down, I think is probably the right call. But again, it has not confirmed that signal just yet. All right. Let's see what else we got. Banksy Rule says, "Hello, Crown. Have they managed to find you an opponent to knock out in Vegas?" Unfortunately, they just canceled the whole fucking event, man. There was some issues with the rules in Vegas. They require all amateur boxers to wear headgear, and the promoters and also as a fighter, I don't want to wear fucking headgear. It just looks bad and it feels bad. Like if you've ever boxed and you put on headgear, it reduces your endurance by fucking 20 or 30%. It really feels awful, honestly. I hate it. I fucking hate it. Whenever my coach makes me wear it, I want to just quit. I really do. But yeah. Anyways, please provide short and medium term targets for the token ZIG, AERO, in the stock MSTU. Okay, ZIG. Let's start off with this one. Zig chain. Sounds very close to racism. Anyways, really nice reversal here, to be fair. Really, really nice reversal. I do think that it trades a little bit higher before it gets its first daily pullback, let's say, maybe around 11.5 to 12 cents, something like that. Would look about right to me. Yeah, but for right now, I mean, this is a very, very strong move. So I don't think it's done just yet. Yeah, I think it trades a little bit further north first, and then you get a pullback. But once you get around this price action pivot, sorry, that's a little bit higher, a little bit closer to 12 cents, but under 12 cents, let's just call it 11.85. I really would be expecting a pullback there. Again, pullback, not the same thing as mega massive failure back down to zero, but pullback should be about somewhere around 10 cents, let's say. So it's about a 20% pullback, and then come back to it after that. But as long as this thing's above, let's call it 9.25 cents, it is bullish. We are seeing momentum oscillators turn around to the upside, and it's been beat up a lot over here as well. So, after a bit of a pullback, if you do see this one return and especially close above that 11.80 region, this thing could challenge the prior highs, or at least get close to those prior highs. Let's say 15 to 16 cents, I think would be very, very likely at that point. But one thing before the next, of course. Anyways, AERO, AERO. This one sounds kind of, Aerodyne. I swear, this is like a fucking, what's it called? It's God damn it, my brain is breaking. It's like the Wolf of Wall Street shitcoin that he was trying to. Steve, I see what you did there. I'm not going to comment on that one. Anyways, let's go to regular. Again, long term, I don't like a chart like this, of course, but in the short term, like most shitcoins, they're going to be bouncing, and they can put in some pretty significant bounces. I don't know if this one tries a move from here upside first, or whether it pulls back first, but I do think at some point before this mark cycle is over, you'll see this thing hit at least $1, which is, still a pretty damn big move from where it's at right now, about a 50% move. But if the market pulls back during this next week, sometime intra-week, like I'm thinking it probably does, then, I'd be looking at this thing as likely to come back down maybe around about 65 cents. Somewhere around there, and try for a higher low. If I go down to a 4-hour time frame, you can see that this one's actually switched around to a bearish bias pivot. So as long as it's below about, let's call it 79.5, no real threat, obviously, of new highs on this rally. And I'd probably be looking for it to come down generally to the upper to mid 60s, let's call it, on this corrective move. Only issues long term if it comes back down below about 55 cents, this major low right here. Until then, just a bit of a short term correction. With potential for more later. And then the last one was a stock, I believe. Yeah, MSTU. It's MicroStrategy 2x long. Great. Fucking great, man. Okay, already, after looking at MicroStrategy itself, I have to say I would much rather own MicroStrategy itself than this thing. Similar to MicroStrategy, it's at the exact area that you'd be expecting a pullback if you are going to get a pullback. But again, it's not bearish. It's just, does it pull back down to fucking $6.5, $7 first and then try another upside move? Or does it just try from here? Well, I'm getting conflicting signals, to be honest, but there is actually good reason to believe, just like MicroStrategy itself, that it actually does continue from here. And if it does, I'd be looking at this thing back to $13.50, 13 or $14, somewhere around this high from early January, something like that. But the daily does have me considering that, I want to see it from this angle as well. Just see if there's like any obvious signals, because haven't seen anything super obvious just yet. No. Well, I guess a little bit of divergence building there, but really fucking splitting hairs on this one. So, let's go to this one. And yeah, no divergence even possible on the daily right now. So I guess there is a good potential for this one to just bust on through here. But again, the price action pivot is $8. As long as you're above $8, okay, it's in a position of power. When you start to come back down below $8, yeah, that's where I think, okay, you're going to see low sixes. Should be an opportunity overall, but you know, just be aware of that. A little bit of a more difficult look there. What's up, Mr. Goodland? Definitely Nordic, definitely a Nordic brother here. And I think that's it for the YouTube members. As always, YouTube does get priority here. For anyone in the member section. And now we shall move on to the Discord. Let's see what we got here. We got Mr. Van Duysen first. I'm liking seeing his name around. He's becoming a usual face in this community. It's good. A future OG, perhaps. Thanks for everything you have whispered in my ear, Grima. Yes, I am the worm tongue. Holy shite. There are some on-edge, frustrated people in the Discord that need some punani. Many such cases, not just in the Discord, but just in the internet in general. It is what it is, man. You gotta learn to love it. Anyways, can you please check Plume USD? I'm hoping to use profits to finance my war against Isengard. All right, let's check out Plume. Am I walking into a trap on this one? Oh no. This one's as far like this is honestly what I like to see from a shitcoin. It's new. And more importantly, it has held its uptrend throughout its very short lifetime, even during, what was a pretty tumultuous time for just about every other altcoin and even Bitcoin as well. I mean, this thing just put another higher low there. So I would say this is probably going to be one of the bigger winners if Bitcoin does continue upwards and onwards. As far as this thing goes, I actually think that this thing is generally going to continue from where it's at right now. Your next sort of breakout confirmation would be back above this high from the 2nd of May, and that's just under 20 cents. So closing above there on a daily time frame, this thing should, get somewhere close to the highs, maybe even make new highs on that run. I'd just treat this one as bullish, especially as long as you're above yesterday's low, which is 17.5 cents or so. If you do take out yesterday's low, then that could be a little bit more concerning for a return back down to these lows from April, but until then, this thing actually has a lot of things going for it. So, if there is going to be a shitcoin that, in fact, I'm going to add this to my list just because it's very rare that you see something like this in the shitcoin drawer. Hey, what's up, Alex Shiva? How you doing, man? Good to see you around as well. Let's see. All right. Yeah, higher low is always good, man. If you want the most simplistic form of technical analysis, which is also the most effective as well, just learn trend. It really is the most important thing. It's not going to always be perfect. Nothing's perfect, obviously, but you got to follow something in order to be consistent and objective. And so trend is probably the simplest thing to learn. And it just fucking works, man. It just fucking works. All right, we got Samuel Johnson. I thought it said Samuel Johnson. I'm like, damn, man, aren't you quite old? Anyways, happy Sunday, Crown. Happy Sunday to you as well, sir. SQD Bybit. Okay, so this is a shitcoin, I guess, because it's on Bybit. Or actually, what I saw is that Bybit is they're going to offer, I think, stocks and commodities, which is like fucking amazing, man. It's just a shame that like almost no one can trade there anymore. They would really be like the best fucking exchange. I mean, if people could actually trade there, but very few can. This thing really looks like it's putting in a top tier to me. We can see daily stochastic oscillator is putting in bearish divergence. It's turning down. It's going to be remaining down below 27 cents. It's been in that zone for a long time. It's also had a pretty epic run right here. So this is a pretty damn good place, in my opinion, to find a local high. What's up, Davo? Good morning to you as well, sir. Let's see if it's accompanied by bearish divergence on the RSI. Because I'd expect to see both these things working simultaneously. And yeah, there will be bearish divergence between this point from late March versus this point that is currently putting in right now. But again, not confirmed until you actually close below yesterday's low. So that's 25.5 cents below there. Should expect a correction down to like 22.5 cents, probably a bounce attempt there. Come back to it after that. Yeah. All right. What else we got? We have Mr. Rectops. Hey, I just saw you on Twitter. Nice one, man. GM Crown and happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you as well, man. TOAO on the daily and weekly. Okay. TOAO, symbol TAO. We go to Binance for this one, I think. Yeah. The LARP line's directionally correct here. I don't think it's going to correct like this, by the way. Like probably something like this. Okay, maybe not even that low, but I do think there is going to be a correction relatively soon, if not sooner rather than later, like this week. But yeah, as far as the LARP lines go, I don't think it's going to get as low as what I was kind of suggesting right there. So let's see. Okay, we came up here, probably comes down, retest somewhere around that white 200 moving average. Should bounce around there. And if it bounces well, then hey, we can expect, a decent extension of this move, probably to like $600. But for right now, yeah, that does make sense for a pullback. Yeah, for right, coming into this next week of price action, whether it hits up to 500 first or whether it pulls back first, I don't know, but I would be expecting a pullback at some point closer to the lower end of 400 and then another try to the upside. And at that point, if you do reclaim this high again from late February at $500, I mean, this thing has a straight shot to 600, maybe even the all-time highs as well. Definitely possible there. But one thing before the next, and like I said, I personally don't want to be getting too aggressive on this market, so I would say, just march it one by one. But hey, you're the best person to make that decision for yourself as far as that goes. And the weekly still shows strength here, but the weekly can still remain upside angled and live through a pullback to like 400 first. So yeah, what's up, Riddick? We're actually fielding questions over here from Discord right now, but perhaps we can get to that later. We'll see what time allows for. Max Optimism, nice name. Hey, Crown. For someone starting out in stocks, would you recommend trading on an index, triple Qs or SPY, or focusing on an individual stock? Either's fine, honestly. Now, if you're going to be more actively trading, I do think that the main thing is you want to be trading like a major high cap thing, because those typically play the most technically, and you just get a lot of opportunity if you're more of an active trader. And of course, even if you're just a passive investor, like long-term investor, I mean, at least having some position in the major indices is a good call. It's not the best call, but it's not a bad option as well. So yeah, it depends what you're trying to do. If you're trading, it's been a long time since I've traded traditional markets, to be honest, like close to 10 years now, which is really crazy to think about. The last time I really even held a badge was in 2018. So I always like to trade the higher market cap ones, like the really popular ones, Facebook, or at the time it was called Facebook, Microsoft, and then yes, I did trade SPY as well, but I had the most success trading Facebook and Microsoft. Again, that was focused on lower term time frame trading, and I was also trading options as well, to be fair. All right, Electric Fields 420 says, GM Crown, putting your business to one side. If you were trading equity options full time, what would you consider to be an attainable annual ROI? Okay, so yeah, putting business aside, meaning that like I'm not doing like the YouTube side of things, basically. Then I was just trading equity options. What would be a reasonable ROI? Well, it does, of course. It really does obviously relate to your strategy, right? Now, what would be reasonable? I mean, look, if you're gaining anywhere from like 10 to 20% a year, that's a really fucking good year. Also, 10 to 20, 10% is basically the SPX. 20% obviously a lot better. So anything above 10% would be considered very, very good. But of course, when it comes to measuring things on an annual basis, you're going to have bad years here and there. But it's about the long-term trend. So I'd say, what's a reasonable ROI? Look, if you can trade both options to the long side and the short side, which requires a lot more capital, and more importantly, you can trade stock along, like just straight up spot stock against these, you're going to be on the upper end of that. I think that you could reasonably gain somewhere between probably even more than 20%, honestly, 20, 30% perhaps, in a good year. But that requires a lot of capital. So if you're just literally fucking, longing naked options, might as well just go to Vegas at that point. If you're playing option legs against each other, like you're doing spreads, strangle straddles, these sort of things. Well, at that point, I think, I think you could do quite well, but still options shine best when you do all three legs. So put, call, and then stock, or futures. If you want to use futures, it's fine as well. Anyways, okay. Hamia says, GM, sir, is alt season back on? I do think that this is like the last, the last push of the market. And in the last push of the market, yeah, alts get to join as well. I mean, it's exactly what we've been saying for a while. I'm not saying that these altcoins are like mega massive bullish, but they're, the shit coins from prior cycles, they're getting their end of cycle bounce right now, in my opinion. Those bounces can go on more. But in most cases, I would say more than 95% of cases, you're not going to see new highs on there. For the newer shitcoins that have acted well during this past cycle, those ones are most likely to make new highs if they haven't already. I mean, I think a few of them have. Yeah. All right, and then also you're looking at. Okay, we're just going to do one of these. We got a lot of questions here, and in limited time, and I'm barely through any of them right now. So let's just look at Ethereum Bitcoin. I do think that Ethereum Bitcoin has found a bottom. It should. I might regret saying this in the future, but it really should move up significantly from here while maintaining the long-term downtrend. That I feel very confident about. But, keep in mind, this thing can bounce all the way up to the 21 EMA, which is 4 million Satoshis, which is almost a 2x move from where it's at right now, and still be mega massive, humongously bearish. Like, that's the problem with it. So yes, you're getting your first bounce off of a retest of your last macro low. This is like a pity bounce, but it can be a big bounce, and I think that it will be a big bounce, and you are going to see this turn up as well soon on the monthly. So, I do think it gets at least to 4 million Satoshis, maybe even a little bit higher towards 5 million Satoshis, but I don't think that you're seeing like a mega macro reversal here. I think that you're seeing, a pity bounce after hitting your prior cycle lows, which is not a strong signal long term. But again, that doesn't mean that it's not going to bounce a shit ton. I think that it does bounce a shit ton from here. All right. Let's move on. Like the stock says, top of the morning to you. Top of the morning to you as well, sir. With the assistance of your crystal ball. Sometimes it's broken, man. Lately, I haven't been trusting it that much. Do you think this correction in traditional markets continues on with the potential for lower lows in the coming months, or is it risk back on with new all-time highs on the horizon? That's honestly the best question of the day, and I'll tell you why. Because it's the hardest question of the day. Because when we go over here to SPY, this is SPY futures contracts, or maybe even Nasdaq's like more applicable, especially to the crypto people. But they trade almost the exact same right here as well. The problem with this is that it is at the exact area that you'd be expecting a rejection if it is going to be a trap and it is going to do those, that scenario that you just kind of laid out. How would you confirm that? Well, if you come back down and close below this last price action pivot, which is on NASDAQ futures, 19,678. If you see a daily closure below there, I think you're going to be right on that. It is going to come down. Maybe not make new lows, but I'd be looking for it to come back down in this range, like mid to low 18s. And obviously that would drag everything, down with it as well. By the other side of the coin, it's like if it continues from here, it's in a really precarious place because this is quite literally the wall of worry. It is, like I said, it's at one of the best places for potential major rejection. Hold on, let me fix this. Oh no, it already is right. It's at the place for, if it is going to get a rejection, it's more or less here. Maybe it trades a little bit above the 200 simple, yes, but all the way up until about $21,000. Like I personally am more defensive, but here, I'll tell you what I did, because that probably, I don't know, maybe, well, it's more transparent, I guess, but maybe it can help. Anyways, as far as traditional markets go, I bought a lot, and I was very vocal about it in early April. So this was this area right here, and I'm still holding those positions, but they are very long-term positions. The only reason why I'm holding those positions is because one, they are long-term, and two, we have seen what was effectively a 20 to 30% correction. So for me, long-term, 5, 10 years, 15 years down the road, it's going to be fine, or it's very likely to be fine. But if I'm trading short term here, I mean, I'm fully prepared that these positions are going to go deep underwater if this thing retests the lows or even makes new lows as well. So yeah, it's a very, very difficult one for me to answer right here. If I had to call it, this does look like a really fucking good low. I will say that for sure. But it's hard to ignore all of the technical signals on the higher term timeframes, which I'll just briefly run through. But here's your quarterly. Your quarterly has bearish divergence here for the first time, like actually ever on this chart. The monthly also has bearish divergence, but you could argue that that's already played out. The RSI, I'm sure, also has as well on these higher timeframes, like a monthly. Yep. Actually, it's printing hidden bullish divergence right now. So perhaps it does make another move to the upside. But if you go to the quarterly, yeah, it's still got this as well. And that would tell me that, this next move up is probably not going to be like the move that you're looking for. So yeah, like I said, I'm fully prepared to go underwater on these. All right. So if I had to wrap it up like the stock, I think it's probably going to trade a little bit more to the north side in the short term, and then probably some downside, honestly. Tristram says, GM sir, thank you for the short strategy idea from last Q&A. Awesome, man. I did some back testing for the short 5-day, close below 5 EMA, BBWP below 20, stochastic pointing down, exit after close above 5 EMA. I'm trying to, I would say if you want an easy way to actually optimize that, your exit condition probably is the best lever that you could pull there. I would try something like take profit by percentage or something like this in addition to this condition, which you can set that up, by the way, with Quant Prime. Anyways, you're saying I'm trying to it's like I read your mind. I'm trying to figure out how to optimize exit. 5-day produces huge wicks to the downside. Yeah, in half of successful iterations, it means giving up over 10. Exactly. Yeah. So go into your strategy statistics and look at your average winning trade, and then also and first base it off of that, but keep both of those conditions in, because that's also a good risk condition for you. So you'll have something like, I don't know, take profit when you're 20%, in the money. Again, I'm just guessing here. I don't know what the right number is going to be, but you have to start with something. So go off of the average first. What you can also do is you can export the data from, let me actually just give you an example. I had something that I was testing here earlier. This is obviously not like a good strategy right now, but what you can do is you can go into the list of trades, and then you can export this. You can export this into like a CSV file, and then you put that on, what's it called? Fucking Google Sheets or Excel, something like this. And then you can use the Excel functions or Google Sheets functions to then derive the standard deviation of these trades in terms of the average winning returns. And then you can go maybe like one standard deviation above the average return and test these sort of ideas out. Cause that's where I find that you start to, you really start to dial a strategy in. And that's definitely going to be your biggest lever on this one. So yeah. All right. Let's see. We got Myth Reindeer. Good morning to you, ma'am. Last week I sent you a P&L with my long and short strategy and asked if it's diminishing or I'm overthinking. It's actually my own script, not the quant service. Yeah, I figured so, because you can't do long and short on the same strategy with the Quant Prime. You have to make a separate one. You said that I should separate longs and shorts and see how they act separately. I checked, and honestly, the curves are pretty much the same. That is super interesting. That is actually super, super interesting to me. I would have not expected that at all. That almost is never the case, but fair enough. I'd be curious to know like what you're actually doing there. The only difference is that longs rely on the high percentage return but lower win rate, and shorts are smaller wins but higher win rate. You suggested to only run longs, but they aren't really being thwarted by reduced shorts. So in this case, just keep it as it is, man. Just keep it as it is. I mean, if there's no difference between the two, then keep it as it is. More iterations means more money in your pocket. You have a trend filter with the 21.55 EMA cross. You might want to try the price action pivots as a filter. I've been trialing that out on pretty much all my strategies, and it does work better than the EMA cross, at least so far. Anyways, and shorts do bring some profits in bad times, so why not keep it? Sure. Fair enough. I mean, I just assumed that your long side of that strategy was probably, pulling in the lion's share of the profits. But if that's the case, then hell yeah, man. I would just go with that. If they really are about the same equity curve, then you're going to benefit from having more duration. So yeah, hell yeah. All right. Tobo says, GM, I hope you're hydrated. One moment, sir. One moment indeed. And I appreciate that, sir. Thank you. I'm looking to get into a long-term position in the stock PGR Progressive. Okay, let's bring it up first. PGR. Actually, for stocks, I like to go to this one. Okay. Oh, wow. Very, very strong. Already at, wow. Powerful. Fucking powerful, man. Very, very interesting. All right, let's get to the actual question. I'm looking to get into a long-term position in this one. I noticed trend reversal on the daily. Can you peek into the daily, weekly, monthly with potential downside targets? I mean, look, if it does play out a pullback from here, your obvious area is back down like 275, something like this. But all higher term timeframes are bullish on this one. Every single one. Every single one. So look, if the rest of the market collapses, then yeah, this thing will come down as well. But as of right now, assuming no fucking major curveballs are being thrown here, maybe it comes back down, in the coming weeks, somewhere around like 275 to maybe as low as like 270. But I'd be looking at that as an opportunity because the higher time frame that I go, the better it looks, to be honest. It is getting very, very exaggerated here. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, if you're long term, I don't think that this thing is top just yet. I mean, the 6 month time frame's about to, Jesus Christ, about to close on new highs as well. So pretty impressive. And you did just have a pretty decent correction right here. Let's see how much percentage wise it was. 15%. So this thing actually was nowhere near the rest of the market. The rest of the market was, minimum like 20%, and in many cases like 40, 50, 60%. So this one's a clear strong horse. Yeah, if it pulls back down to 275, that's fine. But as long as it's above, let's call it 265, I'm bullish for new highs on this one. I don't know how much longer this party lasts, but but this would be one of the best horses, I think, in a bull market. So yeah. All right, let's see. We shall move on. We got Mr. Nick L. He says, Crown and Elsa, we all appreciate you. Thank you, man. I appreciate that comment. Thank you, sir. Sugar Burger says, hello. Can you look at NASDAQ futures on the 4 hour and daily if you haven't yet? And what are your thoughts on the futures gaps? How much weight do they hold? I mean, futures gaps certainly do matter. It's just people assume that because you have a gap, it must be filled absolutely fucking immediately right after it's created. And that's just not true. And that should be obvious to anyone with eyes and also at least a little bit of a brain. But in like real breakouts, you won't retest that gap for, it's possible in some cases, never. I mean, there are some gaps that do not get filled. It is very low probability, but it does happen. But even if it does get filled, I mean, it might take a month, depends what the situation is. Anyways, NASDAQ futures, we already got it over here. You're on a 4 hour time frame. We haven't done this one just yet. 4 hour time frame, bullish bias as long as you're above basically 20,000, whatever this low is right here. Yeah, essentially 19,980 on a closing basis. If you do start to close below it, I'd be looking for a short term correction, maybe down to like 19,500 or maybe even as low as like 19,250. But traditional markets to me look like they want to have one more try to the upside, but I really don't want to see a rejection below 21,000. So yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got. By longs, I'm also including weekly options. Wait, what? When I get into longs, I get nervous because of that stupid gap down there. I mean, shit, it could easily look something like this, man, where it does come up and then it comes back down, fills that gap, and then has your real move. I mean, to be honest, like something like this would make a lot of sense to me. So yeah, you're going to get crushed on long options if you're just naked on those, man. I don't think this is a place to do it. I mean, also volatility is very high, so these are expensive options. I don't know. I don't like that, to be honest. Hard way to make money. Nuke the Black Cube says, GM Simpin Virgin, that would be me. Crown, can you have an update on the hash ribbons? There's nothing to really update there because, I mean, I guess in hindsight, like it actually did work out. As well as you making a case for the signal being respected as well as disrespect. Well, the case is very simple. I mean, it did close below the last major low. Just bring it up right here. I get this question all the time, man. It's starting to drive me fucking nuts. Mostly because it's one of the things that I was banking on so much, and then when it actually happened, you know, I go the other direction. But yeah, you know, you got the buy signal right here. That was in late March. It did come lower after that, closing below the last prior low. So that's typically my invalidation condition, and which was driving a lot of my bias at that time. And it really only did that for one day. And after that, it was immediately back up. So, you know, at the end of the day, I would say probably the more accurate way to have looked at this would have been go to the 5-day time frame, which I've done in the past as well. You see the buy signal right here. You can see the wick down right here on that last low. Yes, it did trade below there, but it did not close below there, so it'd still be valid. And that was in alignment with many other things as well. So, you know, in hindsight, you know, I put out this video in, I think it was like late March or early April, something like this, where I'm like, here's where I'm buying. And it was, and I was saying like mid to low 70s, and it got exactly there. And then, you know, and then I don't follow through with it. Classic shit, man. Anyways, yeah. Fibonacci, and to be honest, man, like it's very obviously being respected right now. I mean, this run is certainly proof of that. But even in the case that we have seen failures on this, you know, it still has at minimum gone up like 50% from the low, and we are 40% up right now. 50% puts you to 112. So yeah, something to be aware of as well. So yeah, something that I completely just fucking whiffed on. It is what it is. Mr. Barash says Sonic and Phantom charts. I don't know. They don't seem like the same chart. All right. We're going to do this again. Mr. Barash, you're better than this, sir. But we can do it. All right. Here's Phantom. Here's Sonic. Phantom, Sonic, Phantom, Sonic, Phantom, Sonic. Scroll back out here. Phantom, Sonic. It's the same fucking chart, man. Come on, man. I know you're better than this. When you count the divergences, bearish, hidden, bullish, do you count the point it's originating from? Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I do kind of like that, even though I understand like intuitively that actually doesn't really make sense. So that's more of a me thing. So yeah, I don't blame you for that, man. It's just my like moronic brain counting it in that way. So I'm like 1 point, 2 point, 3 point. Okay, 3 drives. Even though technically it would actually be 2 drives of bearish divergence. You know, if you understand it intuitively. Yeah, good point right there. Mr. Lovewood says, hell yeah. Fuck yeah, man. Have a good weekend, sir. You as well. NASDAQ futures. Here we go. 2-day time frame. Okay. It's like we've hit every fucking possible time frame on this thing now. God, man, I'm just so split on this one. Like, does it trade higher first and then come down, or does it just come down from here? The more I look at it, the more I do think it tries to move higher first. Let's say 20,500, somewhere between 20,500 and maybe 21,000 bucks. And then I do think it probably does have another downside move, to be honest, man. But I don't think that's going to be a new low move or anything like this. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be bearish on this chart right now overall, but I do think that there could be, you know, there very easily could exist like a, you know, pretty decent pullback. But I'll tell you exactly what I'll do on that pullback. I will buy some more stonks. I'm sure the Head and Shoulders bros are going to be calling this a Head and Shoulders, which, you know, you got your left herp, you got your derp, and then your right herp is probably forming, which would imply that it probably does trade a little bit higher. So supports that case. It's just, I don't think it's going to play out, but again, I can be massively wrong on this one. Either which way though, I do think you get a pullback. The question is, does it move up first and then pull back, or does it just pull back from here? I'm inclined to say it probably moves up first. Cause a real bull trap, if it's going to be convincing, needs to do one very specific thing. It needs to actually create a higher high without creating a higher low. And this one has not created a higher high here. It needs to trade above this March 25th high. Let's see if there's RSI divergence that can sometimes help make it a little bit more obvious. A little bit building here on the 2-day time frame, but yeah, it's not like, this is not like a death sentence. So here's what I'd say. If I was going to be looking for a top here, I would say it's going to be confirmed when you see a daily closure below this price action pivot at 19,700 essentially. If you see that, okay, pull back first. Until that happens though, I'm more inclined to say it continues first, somewhere between 2,500 to 21 and a half, or sorry. Yes, 20,500 to 21,000 bucks, somewhere in that pocket there. All right, nice one, man. Always like looking at traditional markets. Volpes says, good day, sir. Litecoin on the weekly, monthly, please, if possible. Also thoughts on potential ETF approval impact. It's hard to say potential ETF impact because with everything else not named Bitcoin that has gotten an ETF, it hasn't really done all that much. I don't know how much it actually matters. I mean, obviously long term, that's a good thing. But in the short term, I mean, that was actually an immediate sell-off, even for Bitcoin, and then also Ethereum as well. So I think that's less important to the point than just the general tentacles of this thing, which, to be fair, look, if this month can close above all major moving averages, which just requires it to close above 97 and a quarter, I think that this thing is going to retest, your highs from earlier this year and maybe even break out from there. Definitely possible. Always difficult to be bullish on light derp though, just because, well, it's light derp. But kind of similar to XRP in my opinion, where you have this like 10-year long consolidation almost, and it does make higher lows during this consolidation, and you got the same highs over here. So that is the construct of a long-term bullish formation. But, is this thing ready to bust on through here and make new highs above 140 and then I guess go on like a real run above 200? I don't know. I never like betting to the upside on Litecoin just because it always likes to fail. But there are plenty of signs here that do suggest that if this move is going to happen, this would be it. But like I said, I just do not trust it from past experience. But yeah, you got your quarterly stochastic momentum turning up for the first time in forever almost. Bi-monthly time frame, same thing. Monthly time frame is actually down right now, but will flip back up above 112. Especially if you see it above 112 at the end of this month. I mean, that would be a very, very powerful signal to me as well. But yeah, other than that, don't really have anything unique to say about this thing. All right, let's get back into it here. And we shall go down to Matty says, as you've said, it's likely Bitcoin will go to 125 to 130 this year. Usually when Bitcoin makes new highs, the stronger alts also make new highs. Yeah. I mean, that is true. Sui is no doubt one of the strongest since making higher lows and higher highs while other alts are making lower highs and lower lows. My question is, why do you think Sui won't be making new highs even if Bitcoin makes new highs at 125 to 130? Yeah, I need to reassess that view, honestly. I was looking at it earlier today and yesterday as well, and I'm like, I'm not being logical here. And so, yes, if we go with that assumption that Bitcoin does make new all-time highs by, a decent amount, 125, 130, whatever it is, Sui actually would be in a good position to make new highs with it, just because it has been probably the best acting shitcoin this cycle. And, yes, we did have a major correction from when I called a high over here. I mean, in percentage terms, it's nearly 70%. So is that enough? I mean, can I claim victory on that? I think so. So yeah, when I think about it and when I try to be, a little more objective, yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm going to be wrong about that. Again, that's in the case that Bitcoin's making new all-time highs. If Bitcoin doesn't make new all-time highs, I don't think that this thing will. But yeah, as of right now, Sui probably in a good place for a little bit of its own pullback as well. In the short term, at least. So yeah, good point, man. And it's something that I've been thinking about recently. It's like, wait a second, hold on. I'm literally contradicting what I typically think. So why am I doing that? And just stupidity, honestly. Chev says, GM, sir, I missed an entry on Palantir for a long-term position. I didn't think the bounce would be this strong. What are some entry prices on the daily, weekly? Jesus, yeah. Let me just do that for you, sir. Look, I actually still think that there's a good chance that this one does correct lower. Like I said earlier, anywhere around $100 would be fair game. It did get down to 105, so it's like, am I being too greedy with this? Maybe, but look, if it does come back up and close above the 5th of May high, I will just buy a breakout. That's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. If we see a closure above there, okay, fine. I'll just fucking buy it. But until then, personally, I'm waiting for lower. I don't want to buy it here. I've already bought enough, much lower. But if it does come back down somewhere between, like, let's say 95 to 85, that's where I'm interested. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that. All right. Jim Bob says, hey, Crown, this is the best hour of the week. Fuck yeah, man. I'm glad that some people enjoy it. Thank you. Could you make some comparisons to February 2021 and to current price action? What might PA look like when we get past this cycle's all-time high? So September 2021, that was when Bitcoin was kind of turning the corner after the Q2 collapse. So right around here. Yeah. Do I think that there's comparisons between this and this? Generally, yes. You know, you can see the reversal is very similar, right? You know, about 1, 2, 3 bars coming off the lows and then up. Same thing over here. It doesn't have to be exact, but, you know, if we're going with that relationship, it kind of aligns with what I've been saying about 120 to 125. A new high, maybe not like a significantly new high, but a new high. And then again, I really do think it's a better time to be defensive than not. So yeah. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to say. You know, we can see that, I guess there's a few things to say. We can see that stochastic momentum is kind of in a similar positioning here. You know, this one, the stochastic momentum topped in May on this drop off and then was basically down the whole way through, even though it made a new high. And that's kind of what we're getting here as well, right? You know, it did have a short-term cross to the upside. Again, it doesn't need to be exact, but, you know, it starts to come down. And if we start to make new highs while this thing is coming down, I mean, that is going to be divergence just by the very nature of it. So yeah, that would be the similarities that I see. And also it kind of plays, I mean, that among many other things that do play into my idea that, you know, if this market does continue, I don't think it's going to be like this crazy massive move. And I know that many people really don't like hearing that, and many people massively disagree with me. It's okay. We can have different opinions. Like, it's okay. I'm entitled to think what I want to think. You can think whatever the hell you want to think. But yeah, that's what I'd be backing it up with as of right now. All right. Cloud says, hello, sir. What is the point of trading Bitcoin when buying and holding usually outperforms? All right. So this is, am I not using high enough leverage, or do my strategies suck ass? Okay. It's your overarching strategy is just not well refined, we'll say. So these questions of, is trading better or is buy and hold better? Well, assuming that you're actually a profitable trader, then you can get the best of both worlds. Why? Because most crypto exchanges offer what's called inverse perpetual contracts, which allow you to hold Bitcoin as collateral to put on your leveraged trades, meaning that you get to hold Bitcoin and trade however much leverage you want. So yeah, even with just naked leverage and not holding Bitcoin, I mean, theoretically that would be possible for sure. But in that case, I'd have to say, given your statement, that would mean that the strategies do indeed suck the Angus. But even if they do suck the Angus, if you're even just a little bit profitable and you do employ the same strategy on an inverse perpetual, well, then you are outperforming. So yeah, here's the thing though. Actually, I'll bring this up really quickly. So where's my Twitter derp? Let's go here just really quickly. This was very enlightening to me. So this poll closed just now, and I posted it up yesterday, and basically I said this: Bitcoin is back at all-time highs, more or less. Basically, is your portfolio worth more or less than it was in January when Bitcoin first visited, this area? And over 80% of people, I can assume, are either down or very down. Only just under 19% are actually up. It is the Pareto principle, in play. But the point that I'm making here, or the point that I guess is revealed by this, is that most people are just going to be better off buying and holding Bitcoin than doing anything else, whether it's trading, whether it's investing in shitcoins, investing, right? More often than not, you're just going to be better off holding Bitcoin. It is what it is. Anyways, okay, we are definitely not getting through all of these today. Holy shit, we're already at an hour. Prince says, hey, Crown, can you look at gold on the biweekly and monthly? Is 4,000 inevitable in the coming weeks? I mean, we kind of looked at it earlier, but I would say it is. I think it's really honestly topping like right about here. Extremes on volatility all the way up to a monthly. It's been in there for a long fucking time. But it's not confirmed yet. When you see the daily close below 3,200, that's when it's confirmed. So as long as you're above there, I guess it's possible what you're projecting. But when you start to close below there, I think that you're in for a prolonged correction sideways and down, well below 3,000, and then maybe it continues at after a multi-month long consolidation. Possible for sure, but I think that you've seen the overwhelming majority of this current move, if not the whole move already. And $4,000 is quite far away right now, even for gold. All right, Dunning-Kruger effect says, hello, sir. What's up, ma'am? Could you give me your thoughts on the following setup, please? Okay. What the fuck is this thing? Utelsat. This actually is kind of a cool idea. And you sit on Euroderp. Oops, I did the wrong one. My bad. Oh, God. Utelsat. Okay. It's this one here, right? I guess. Jesus, man, you're trading something like this. What the fuck, dude? You don't have to, you don't have to. Anyways, the question is entry on at about 4:30. So you're already down. Let's go to a daily. Okay. So, all right. Anyways, your stop loss is 370. Does that make sense? It depends what time frame you took this trade on, but I would say 370 actually does make sense as a stop loss just because it is, or actually 380 makes sense as a stop loss. It needs to close below there, to be fair, not just wick below there, but that is the most recent price action pivot on the daily, meaning that if you do take it out, like you're probably coming back down, 340 to 350 at minimum, maybe even actually break down and come back down to fill this gap at $2. But it's just lower highs the whole way through. Like you're trading an asset that is much more likely to go down than it is up over a long period of time. So you're playing the game on hard mode and you don't need to. And your target is 12. Yeah, this is a good way to go broke, man. It might work out, but Jesus Christ, dude, I would not be betting on it. You basically need a new high above this high right here. This thing is never put in a weekly uptrend where it reclaims like a major macro high, except for this one right here. But that was very early on within its life. I wouldn't be betting on it right now, man. I'll put it that way. And you're also seeing extremes on volatility. So I think this thing is a lot more likely to trade sideways for a while. Try a little bit of downside as well. And if you, again, come below this price action pivot, I would expect at least retesting April lows. And if you start to close below April lows, extend those downside targets to $2. Like, if you're going to be gunning for like a fucking basically 3x move, pick an asset that actually, maintains long-term uptrends, because this ain't it. This is a monthly chart. This thing just likes to go down very, very bad. Can it, like a phoenix, and his ashes rise again? The ashes are the ashes. It would seem like. All right. And Mark says, hey, Crown, last time I asked you about a tool to optimize the strategy parameters, you were about to show me one of your caretakers tool. You mentioned Companion. No, but then you went wrong but then something went wrong and you gave up. Okay. Yeah. I was showing you, I was going to show you the Quant Companion. Let me see if I can bring it up. I swear. Maybe it's .io or something. No. .com. No. I don't have it on my screen right now, but it's basically a tool that we give out for free for the Quant Prime users that gives you like super detailed strategy statistics. I can pull it up from another screen. Just one moment. I'll go directly into the teachable content. Find the exact website. There she is. Okay. All right. Okay. Where is... I'm going to try to copy and paste this. It's right here really quickly. Okay. Let's try this. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So this, you can upload your CSV from your TradingView strategy data, and then it'll give you like really fucking detailed statistics. You know, it can run Monte Carlo simulations. Obviously, you get cumulative net profits. You get all these sort of things, your profit distribution, probability cones for what you can expect in the future, your Z-score distribution. You know, all of these things can be pretty fucking cool to play around with. The website is called quant-companion.quantalchemy.io. And it is actually free to use, but I think only the people in the Quant Prime service know about it as of right now. But now everyone knows. Anyways, moving on, we have JZO. He says, who are real and who are fake public traders? I mean, I don't even know who are the public traders to begin with, to be honest, man. I don't mean to create trouble in any direction, but I think I've followed for a while, at least a few. There have been, look, here's a good heuristic. If the person is posting more about their lifestyle than they are about their trading or their analysis or anything like this, probably they're trying to sell you on their lifestyle because they understand the powerful marketing scheme of selling the lifestyle rather than the actual skills to people. And, you know, it's probably, in most cases, it's usually obvious, but yeah, man, I don't watch like really any of the people. You know, I have friends in the space who are, you know, who do analysis, and I think that they're generally decent, or in some cases like very, very good. But you know, as far as like the fake guys, like I don't hang out with these people. I don't spend my time like perusing Twitter or YouTube for, you know, how to trade, which is great. I mean, you know, when you're in the learning phase, like that's a good thing to be doing. But realistically, you know, you really should only be, I shouldn't say you should be, but the best way to learn, honestly, is first go around go around like all of the free content on YouTube and shit. I even have like a playlist for TA 101, and just immerse yourself in it for a little while, and then just do it on your own. Like block everyone else out. Like don't follow anyone. Don't even follow the legitimate ones. Just do your own thing, because that's where you're actually going to build up your own self-discipline and your own strategies. And well, you're not going to have the noise of the rest of the world, because even if you are following legitimate traders, their strategies might not necessarily work with you, because you guys have different personalities and preferences. There's been time where the trader gets your sympathies on your side and gets revealed. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, man. Like they're playing a different game, you know, like most traders, at least that I know, they're not interested in selling you on their fucking lifestyle and like how rich they are and shit like this. One, because it's just from a security standpoint, it's really an issue. If you haven't seen, I mean, there's like been a bunch of stories recently with, you know, people, you know, public people in the crypto space, especially, who get kidnapped and, you know, tortured and shit like this because they were flaunting on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter, you know, all of their amazing wealth and shit like this. And, you know, I asked myself, what is worth that? Nothing, if it means that you're going to get tortured and, you know, potentially killed in some cases. I mean, Jesus Christ, it can be very, 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 very bad. So for me, it's like, I have no interest in ever putting myself in a situation like that. So that would be my general heuristic. If they show more content, or if they really even show any content about their lifestyle in like a bragging, flexing way, it's probably not legit. If they're under 25 years of age, probably not legit. They just haven't literally had enough time. Like, you're still learning, you know, you have to spend some time learning. Anyways, moving on, let's get back into it. Oh damn, we're like well above an hour. All right, I'll do a couple more and then we'll call it a day. Conan says, "Hey Crown, do you recommend using multiple exchange accounts for the same bot trading strategy due to risk of any individual exchange getting hacked and losing all of its fund?" I mean, look, if you're like super risk adverse, I guess you could do that. I don't do that. I just keep a relatively small amount on the exchange. That's how I kind of deal with exchange risk. Is I really have. I mean, at this point, wow, it's actually less than 3% of my net worth is even on an exchange ready to trade. That's how I manage the risk there. Spreading across different exchanges. I mean, I feel like you just have more risk in that way as well, just because like one of them is going to probably fail over a long enough time, right? Yeah, and especially if it's the same trader, or sorry, especially if it's the same trading strategy, it's like I personally find that way is just more reasonable, at least for myself. So yeah. That is the beauty of using leverage as well, is that you don't have to hold as much on your exchange of choice in order to get the same position size that you want it. Now, it doesn't mean you should fucking over leverage yourself to hell, but like 3 to 5x leverage, okay. Your risk management should be good enough so that you're never getting liquidated on that anyways, right? Anyways, okay, we'll end with M's. It rhymes as well, so it's good. Mr. Crown, you have forever changed the way I look at shitcoins. Holy fuck. Another soul has been saved. No kidding. Could you please look at Tesla on the daily? I can see the pivot at 222 and would love to scoop some more below 280. That's funny. I actually bought Tesla at 280. Yeah, we can look at it. Again, very long-term position there, but I think this one traded up north of $300 this past week. Okay, so price action pivot at 222, yeah, 100%. If we go to like the higher time frames, like the weekly, does it pull back from here first and then try another move to the upside, or does it just bust on through right here? Well, I do think long-term the upside is significantly more likely. Does this thing maybe base one more time at 250? That would be nice. Can't promise it's going to get there though. This one's acting pretty damn well here, especially with the breakout seemingly, it's technically not fully confirmed yet. We need to see it close above 304, but I think you can hold on to the hopium for a pullback down to like somewhere around 250, let's say, as long as this thing is not closed above basically last Friday's high. But the second you close back above last Friday's high, I think that this thing's going to be a big shot up towards 370, $400, probably just continues, But yeah, and again, for full disclosure, full transparency, I did buy at 280. Again, very, very long-term position. I'm fully prepared for this thing to go completely underwater for a very long time, but just in full transparency, yeah, I'll tell you that. And I think, there's a decent chance of a pullback here. But as soon as you close back above Friday's high, that hopium fades real fucking fast. And this thing is, typically the way you go down is the way that you go up, and the way that you go up is the way that you go down. and this one did have a pretty screaming move to the downside. So I would imagine it probably moves fast as it typically does. Anyways, that is a good place for us to be leaving off on this Q&A session. Holy fuck. We got through a lot today. This was very, very good. Really enjoyed this one. Again, thank you for joining in, of course, on Twitter Live, and we'll be back on tomorrow, actually Twitter Live again, while we record the daily Bitcoin's price action analysis. Anyways, with all of that said, I want to wish you the best of the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully next time.